Hello, everybody. It's Mike Yao with Red Sun Role Playing Game and Fire in the Head Productions, which is my little publishing company. So I just want to do a quick update video on the Red Sun Kickstarter, or not Kickstarter, but Indiegogo crowdfunding project, as some of you might know about. So we're only about 3 days, or like 2.5 days before it's over. It was a 40-day campaign. It's over on November 15th. And we're still short. We're at like 67%, so pretty much two-thirds, right at two-thirds funded. A little disappointing, but with the state of the economy and stuff, I guess it's not super surprising. Anyway, I just want to come on and tell you guys thanks for contributing. Hopefully, we're not. It might make it because those of you who know about crowdfunding, usually like when a campaign first launches, it's like it's pretty active, and then there was like a big lull in the middle, especially as smaller operations like mine. Then at the end, sometimes they'll kind of kick in at the last minute. So we'll see. The hope is still there. However, all is not lost. If it doesn't make, it's not a super big deal. Obviously, a little disappointed. It'd be cool. But I want to let you guys know that I will possibly, I would say probably, either remount a new campaign, maybe using Kickstarter instead of Indiegogo, because it's a little bit more known. And or instead of Red Sun, I might do Savage Kingdoms. In fact, I'm leaning towards a Savage Kingdoms 4th edition. So those of you who have stuck through the first 3 editions, I know some of you are out there. Not a small group of people, but some very loyal players that have hung around for the last 2, 3 editions of Savage Kingdoms. So we're coming up on the 12th anniversary, and so a 4th edition in 2026 might be in order. In fact, I actually already have like 95% of it written. Maybe a little like 92% is probably more accurate. 92, 93% already written and designed. Pretty happy with it so far. We've already been playtesting some of it with people. So while I've been playtesting the new Red Sun game, which I'm hoping will make, I've also been occasionally playtesting with some friends and online and in person the new Savage Kingdoms 4th edition. Whatever I decide to call it. Right now I'm just calling it 4th edition. Might come up with some fancy title like Savage Kingdoms Resurrected or Re-Risen or something, but I don't know. Right now it's just 4th edition. 2 years ago, I was going to call it Savage Kingdoms X, meaning that it was X for 10, Roman numeral 10, but it was too early for a new edition, and I got really kind of infatuated with Red Sun because it tested really well, which is why it's a little disappointing. But again, not super surprising and not really super big deal in the grand scheme of things with all the things going on in the world and stuff like that. But so yeah, look for a new Kickstarter or crowdfunding campaign with Red Sun, or like I said, I'm leaning a little bit more towards Savage Kingdoms 4th edition, and then maybe in a couple more years, maybe I'll round back to Red Sun, which is the poster right there. So Red Sun is actually, just to speak on it a little bit more in more detail, if some of you haven't seen my past videos and stuff like that. I don't have a ton of subscribers, so I know a lot of people don't really see these, but so Red Sun is a pulp. You can probably see it on the banner. Pulp, sword, and sorcery. So more like in the old days, Robert E. Howard and stuff like that when they were in pulp magazines. That's really the main influences. And so it's more, I mean, Savage Kingdoms is technically pulpish as well, but it's designed to run more like long, sweeping campaigns, very Game of Thrones-esque, with a little dash of the darker part of Lord of the Rings, that kind of thing. Whereas Red Sun, you can completely run a long campaign, which I've actually have run in online, but now that's been going on for, I don't know, 30, 25, 30 sessions. But it is more designed more for short story kind of format, pulp adventures, that sort of thing. It's kind of, the design is kind of hard coded or hard baked into the system to support that, whereas in Savage Kingdoms, it supports a little bit longer thing, but not necessarily. You can do either. And also to speak really quick, so I kind of touched on it, like I was using Indiegogo instead of Kickstarter. So the reason why, because I know people will probably ask, well, why, Mike, did you use Indiegogo instead of Kickstarter? Which you have in the past. So I've done a lot of Kickstarters in the past, and I've used Indiegogo once or twice in the past, twice, I think. And Indiegogo tends to raise a little bit on the lower end of money because Kickstarter is probably more known, right? It's more out there, it's more kind of advertised and stuff. We use it even as the generic description of what it is. In fact, I started the video saying I Kickstarter. That's the company, right? Crowdfunding is really the what it actually is. But anyway, so the reason I went with Indiegogo because it's easier. Kickstarter started getting a little harder to deal with. Like it's a little bit longer to get approved and it takes longer to get your money. Indiegogo, to me, with my experience, has always been much smoother, much faster. Probably, and again, probably because it's not as there aren't as many people working there. It's probably not as busy, etc. So I just decided to go with Indiegogo this time, and looking for a very minimum cost, very minimum goal of $1,500, and I guess we're at 1,000. I guess we're at 1,000, right? 67% of 1,500 would be 1,000. But I think it's like 1,015 or something is technically where we're at. Probably more like closer to 68%. So we can still do it. Anyway, 1,500 is very, very on the low end. That was like the very minimum that I could do it without eating in the past a couple times, eating too much of my own personal bank account, working all these things on my own time, in addition to being an actor and working part time at my sports club that I play pickleball at, and I'm also a tour guide, so doing all these little gigs, all these jobs, plus doing this, and it's just it's kind of all over the place. But it is what it is. I love that. I love the gig life. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that between all the other stuff, trying to slot everything in there between rehearsal schedules and show schedules and tours and running professional Dungeons and Dragons for youth kids that I do on the weekend, trying to slot all that in there, especially while trying to perform in a show when it's open, like trying to juggle all that stuff is really difficult. So I don't really, I can't, it's hard for me to eat into my own income with producing these projects, right? These game design projects. So anyway, going back to the original point, 1,500 was the bare minimum I could do it, and so if it doesn't make, I have it set up to where everybody gets their money back. So if you have contributed, if you have pledged to the campaign, first of all, thank you. Love you guys for doing that. But you'll get your money back if it doesn't make by the 15th, and like I said, 2.5 days from now. So you will get your money back, and then hopefully you'll, and I've emailed some of you personally because I know most of the backers personally pretty well. I might have emailed you personally already that, hey, could you consider like kicking it back in if I redo the campaign in the next month or two? The time of year is kind of weird because, like, on one hand, I'm like, if I do a holiday era crowdfunding or Kickstarter, then you're kind of people have money for presents, and it's just kind of a weird time of year. On the other hand, maybe it's a great time of year. Maybe you can kind of like sort of couch it as like, hey guys, if you want to give me like a little tiny Christmas present, contribute to my Kickstarter campaign. So it could go either way, I guess. It's a really strange. I've never done a crowdfunding at this time of year. I mean, this time of year that currently, and yes, which is why I launched Red Sun at this point, like after Dragon Con and kind of early autumn to mid autumn. But I was talking about like if I do the next one, and if it's in like a month or two, it will be the holiday system. So season. So maybe I'll wait till January, but I don't want to wait too long. I kind of want to, if the iron is like quasi hot from this campaign, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And then January is kind of weird too because people are recovering financially from the holidays. So I don't know. Honestly, February is probably the best time. Maybe even March. Don't really want to wait that long, but we'll see. Answer me, reply in the comments or something if you have any suggestions for that. I know a decent amount of crowdfunding lore already. I've done it like 9 different times. In fact, this is the first one. It looks like it's going to fail. I'm like 8 for 8 until this one. Again, it's not over yet, but it's kind of leaning that way. Again, not a big deal. So I do know a good bit about this kind of stuff, but like anything, I can always use advice. If you guys have done this more or know some more successful people, probably true because I do earn. I get a pretty minimum. The most I've ever made on a Kickstarter, by the way, going back was first edition Savage Kingdoms. That was back in 2014, so almost 12 years ago. And that was probably because it's a brand new. I didn't even really advertise it at all, but it was a brand new system, right? It was, I guess, kind of exciting to people. It was totally different. It's only a D20 mechanic. You're only using a D20 dice. So some stuff was like, I guess, somewhat innovative. and it was like it's dark fantasy slash sword and sorcery, so it wasn't like the same old Dungeons and Dragons kind of tropes. So anyway, new game. People saw it and they're like, "Oh, cool," and they backed it, and that's really cool. I raised over 6,200 or 6,700. I have to go back and look. Anyway, so we're in the 6,000s, which for a non-advertised indie game company, which is pretty much me. Occasionally, I have some outside help, usually free from friends and stuff, but 99.5% of it is yours truly. So for such a little tiny game company and with very little to hardly any advertising, over 6,000 is actually not. It's fairly relatively impressive. And then all the projects from there just kind of gradually went down because when you're running a game line, I know I've spoken about this many times in videos, but I'm going to do it here again because why not? I've already started. Um, so whenever you have a game line, right, your player's handbook, so to speak, or your core rulebook is what I like doing. Core rulebooks, which has GM stuff in it as well. That's like your first thing, right? That's like in almost all game systems. That's kind of your main book because technically that's the only book you need to run the game, right? So that one sells pretty well. That one does well. Whenever you put out a product which is typically like a bestiary or maybe an adventure supplement or possibly a game master's guide or something like that, whatever it is, um, that tends to sell less, right? That's just economy 101. It's just, or more specifically, game industry 101. And then your third product is usually lower. And that's even true with like WotC, Wizards of the Coast, and Paizo. It's like your player's handbook is kind of a big thing. Now D&D has kind of the advantage of, well, two advantages. First, it's Dungeons and Dragons, which is like Coca-Cola, right? It's like the giant, everybody knows about it. And then secondly, it has kind of the three core rule book sort of model, which goes all the way back to first edition, where you have the Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual. Little known fact of first edition, by the way, it went Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, Dungeon Master Guide. Remember that. That's how old I am, I suppose. So my point is that the three core rule books sell pretty well, but still, even then, the Player's Handbook is always at the top. It still outsells the Dungeon Master Guide for sure, and usually, if not always, the Monster Manual. The Monster Manual is usually up there pretty close, but so when you're a little smaller game designer like myself, a small independence game, that it's even more dramatic. You might sell, and you're not going to sell tons of your core rulebook anyway if it's pretty small, but enough to be fun and kind of get it out there and stuff like that. And then if you release a second product, which I have before in the previous editions of Savage Kingdoms, then it's something like half of what you can if you're crowdfunding it, you're only earning like half, maybe 4,000 if you're most out of the 6,000. And then in sales, when you put on Drive Through RPG or whatever or wherever, or even in local bookstores, which I have, even like actual retail sales are about half of what the original product, the core rulebook is. And then if you have a third product, I think I had a third product in one edition of SK. Otherwise, it has gone beyond two. And then that's like half again from the second one. And it's not that your product's bad or your game. People, I feel like some of my second or third products in the line might have been even better than the first one. That's just game design 101 and sort of economy 101. Because again, the good thing about tabletop role-playing games, you don't really need more than that one, which is why it's called that, a core rulebook. It has all the core rules. You can literally run the game from it. All the other stuff is kind of added on, kind of supplements to boost that game system and or add more elements to it. So anyway, I just want to speak about that. So just to wrap this video up, just know that the Red Sun Kickstarter, again, just to reiterate, is over on the 15th. So if you know of anybody who wants to contribute that's been holding back, let them do so. Otherwise, if they would like to hold back, I'm not conceding yet. I'm not surrendering it necessarily. But if they would prefer Savage Kingdoms, or they just want to hold off for a couple of months, then have them contribute that money to the next crowdfunding campaign that I'll be doing after this one, which again will probably be Savage Kingdoms 4th edition core rulebook. Possibly I might try Red Sun again, but my instinct is to, since it looks like it might fail this first time, is to maybe kind of put it on the back burner and then kind of bring it back around. And before I do close the video, I do want to state that I might have mentioned this in past videos. I've been really trying to gather lore and doing exit polls whenever I run demo games at Dragon Con is like the big convention I typically go to. And I'll go to some smaller ones in North Carolina, Western North Carolina, where I live. Dragon Con's not super far away. It's down in Atlanta, which is where I lived for like 40 years before I moved up here in the mountains. And I'll go to these, and I run games at the local game shop where I run professional D&D sessions for kiddos, for 10 to 17-year-olds. So anyway, my long story short, whenever I'm demoing these different games at these cons or whatever, and I don't do a ton of them because again, my weekends are like super busy trying to earn a living. I try to collect as much data as I can, like what do you rate this game system on a 1 to 10? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Did you like the lore? Did you like the mechanics? Did you not like any of those? Any other suggestions? Did you not like the marketing? Did you not like the logo, etc.? So I've done that for Red Sun and Savage Kingdoms, and I've gotten some interesting results because Red Sun overall play tested better than Savage Kingdoms, which is, I don't want to brag, but saying a lot because SK is usually done like it gets, on a 1 to 10 it typically scores like around an 8 or so, whereas Red Sun scored around an 8.5, and it also is maybe a slightly bigger hit with the younger kids, and that might be because it's a little bit simpler system. I hate to say that it's simpler. I mean, well, it is mathematically, but it's a lot deeper than people think. And people that have tried it are like, oh yeah, this is more robust than I thought. It's actually very close to the level of SK, which is very robust with character creation, all the things that you can do with it. But then with some of my closer friends, Savage Kingdoms, I think, test a little bit better. So it's kind of interesting. So with people I don't really know, Red Sun kind of finishes first, not by a huge margin. And then with people I've kind of know, and it might be because they're more used to Savage Kingdoms and the setting and everything, it tends to skew SK. So with all that in mind, that's why I did Red Sun on a whim, because I thought, well, first of all, it's a new thing. I've already done 3 editions of Savage Kingdoms. I was kind of really happy with the design. I really liked the logo and everything. And it seemed like my closer circle of friends being 10, 12, 15, well, maybe 20 people over 100 or 150 or 200 from the other people, I did kind of lean towards the Red Sun group, which was the bigger people. But again, people I didn't really know as much. So very interesting. And so on a whim, I kind of went with that. And so, yeah. And so we'll see in like 2.5 days whether that instinct was correct. So it's leaning, if I would have to make the call right now, I don't think it's going to make it. But like I said at the beginning of the video, sometimes these crowdfunding projects in the last 48 hours, 72 hours at times, just kind of kick in like a couple of people. And it's usually people that are aware of the project. They're kind of holding back, maybe waiting for another paycheck or something, or just kind of want to be heroes at the end and sort of dash at the end to make it cross the finish line. Whichever method is totally cool. So that could happen. But again, if not, then I will plug on and try it again maybe in a few months, or bring Savage Kingdoms back around. So, all right. Well, thanks for my rambling. Hopefully it was a little more than rambling. Hopefully it was somewhat informative. Thanks you guys for backing the game, or at least listening to this video. And I will talk to you again soon. Thank you.